training. There have been some questions about, will these recordings be shared with those that did not attend? They will eventually, yes. What we're going to do is curate the recordings of all of the trainings we do and put together the best of, and make sure that we're providing people that cannot attend with the best content in total that will hopefully leave them with the fewest questions. We're sharing it with you immediately or the day of, because you understand the context of the call and we're on the call in a live format. At that, I'm going to start sharing my screen, and we are going to jump into Command and DocuSign. If I can just get a thumbs up from everybody that you can see my screen. All right, awesome. Haven't had problems with this yet this week. Let's hope we continue going there. We're going to go find the opportunity that we created yesterday. So to get there, again, if you don't know the names of the icons, remember you can always click the red KW. You've probably heard me say that a million times if you've been in my trainings in the past, just making sure I'm drilling it home. We're going to come down and click the opportunities, which is the handshake on the left-hand side. And we're going to go find Jamie and Julie Baker. And remember, we scheduled an appointment with them. We have an appointment made, and we've done all these things to prepare for our appointment. And now we're going to walk into that appointment with an exclusive right to sell, ready to be signed. So we're going to create those documents today. I'm going to go into Julie and Jamie Baker's listing opportunity. Once I'm in the opportunity, we kind of touched on this a little bit in the last 2 days, but within this opportunity card, the third option over, the third menu option is documents. We're going to click the documents button, and this is going to generate, at the time, it will have nothing here. I was in here playing around with this. This will be blank, and there will be nothing in this drop down that I just selected on the right. On the left, or sorry, on the left-hand side, not on the right. On the left-hand side where you see it says on my screen, residential resale. You can click this drop-down menu, and these are all of the different checklist options for Command. These have been set up with Lori and Matt to make sure that it will meet compliance for our office. And this is what is mimicking the old, what you're used to, dot loop checklist. The dot loop checklist on the right-hand side had columns with X's that marked what documents were required depending on the type of property. Now you're going to select which property. So today we're going to go with residential resale. There are new construction, real estate owned, land, commercial, and short sale options. And when you click these, it's going to change the required documents in this list here in the middle of the screen. Today, we're going to go with resale. And these are the documents you will have to submit for compliance. Now, it's going to say if they are required underneath the name, or if they're conditionally required, or if they're optional. So those are the things that are required, optional, or conditionally required. If it's conditionally required, it's going to give you the condition. For instance, the lead-based paint disclosure, we know that it is required if the property was built prior to 1978. This first list of documents is just for listed. The second is for under contract, and the last is for closed. We're going to go through this full checklist tomorrow. How do we associate those documents? How do we submit them for compliance? And what is the compliance review process? Today, we need to create the documents. So to create the documents, over here on the right-hand side of my screen, this dark gray button, you'll notice that mine has a drop-down arrow. Yours might not. If you only have a DocuSign account connected, you will not have a drop-down arrow. When I click my arrow, I have both DocuSign and dot loop options. This is because in the past, we've been able to go ahead and start transactions here via dot loop. We chose not to train our office that way because we didn't want you to have to adjust to compliance at Command using dot loop and then have to switch to DocuSign. We just decided to do it all at once and make the transition. So we waited. We let corporate work out a lot of the kinks and make some of those things better for us so that we have a smoother transition into DocuSign. So in order to start this transition, once I select DocuSign, I can no longer switch how this transaction is. It will forever be in DocuSign. I can't go back and change it to .loop later. I'm going to click DocuSign, and it's going to start or create what we call a room inside of DocuSign, and it's going to open my DocuSign account. Now, it's going to ask me to sign into it. If you have it to where it automatically signs you in, then it should automatically sign you in there. This is going to launch me into that specific DocuSign room. Now, if you remember, it was super important that Jamie and Julie had all of their contact information. They had an email address, a phone number, and their full name inside of the opportunity. It's going to pull that information over. This is now the room for the Julie Baker listing. You can see that up top here on the left. It did pull over the expected closing date. It has assigned a room ID, and this is the dashboard for DocuSign transaction rooms. Some of you might have worked in DocuSign transaction rooms in the past. Some of you might have not. This is different than the e-signature platform. It does communicate with it, but it is a different platform. Before we start adding documents to our room, we're going to go to details on the left option. Under details, this is where you can enter as much or as little information as you want. It's going to have already pulled some information. The more information we put in here, the more it's going to autofill all of our documents for us. So we know that we have to input the address of the property multiple times because it's multiple documents. If I put the address of the property to be listed here in the details tab, then it is going to autofill that in the majority, if not all, of our forms. So we're going to go down, up top, there's a blue button for edit. I'm going to click edit, and I'm going to start filling in some of this information. We're going to go ahead and put in the location. And we know, if we remember, yesterday we were selling the office. So I'm going to put in 1523 Hugh G Street. We're going to act as if this is a residential resale property, not a commercial office building. Get this information put in here. This is going to help us autofill our documents. You could go on and put all this other information. We're not going to do that for purposes of time today. I want to make sure that I honor your time. We're going to go ahead. We will put a listing date. We're going to go ahead and do it for today. We're going to go with a listing expiration date. Let's go out to, I don't know, July 8th. We'll do a 90-day listing. And we're going to list this for, I think we said $250,000 yesterday. We know that's way undervalued for our property at the office. However, we're assuming it's a residential sale. We'll leave that at that. You don't have to put in any offer details because this is not an offer or high bid or any closing details because we're not under contract yet. But these are all of the different fields that you can put in, and if the field is in the document, it will autofill it for you. Now, on the right-hand side, what did not happen is it did not pull over our seller information. Now, keep in mind that this is a growing program, and some days it works and some days it doesn't when it auto pulls from command. The majority of the time it is pulling their contact information and there is no need for duplicate entry. However, sometimes it's not pulling over the information. There's no rhyme or reason at this point as to why. We're working through that. Corporate is working through that in the tech field to make sure that we start pulling that information. So on the right-hand side, it did put my listing agent information. It did not put my sellers. So I'm going to go ahead and add Julie Baker. And I'm going to go ahead and add Jamie as well. I'm going to go ahead and save this information. And then we're going to go over to documents. I think I answered this question for you, Jamie. So if yesterday you put the address in the client card in command, why didn't it pull over? The goal is that it does pull over. Again, there's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I know that can be frustrating. However, we're working on making that more consistent. Again, sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. Hopefully that gets better and better as time goes on. Now that we have input some additional information here, we verified that it's what we want it to be. We're going to go back to the documents tab that it launched us into, and we're going to add documents. Now, when we were in .loop, when we set up a loop, it automatically dumped some of the documents in there. And some of them we had to go pull from templates. With DocuSign, it will not automatically dump the documents that you need. You're going to have to pull them. However, we have worked and we're going to continue to work to create as many templated folders to pull your documents in as possible. So when we go to add, there's multiple options here. Let's say you received a document that you just need to add signatures to and you have it downloaded to your computer. You can upload that here. If you prefer zip forms or to pull from Dropbox or Google Drive, you can do that as well. However, we're starting from scratch with a brand new listing and we need all of the forms to get that set up, right? So we're going to go DocuSign Forms as our option. Now, it's going to take a few seconds, hopefully only a few seconds, for this form window to pull up. This is a pervasive issue that is across all of KW right now, and it has been escalated, and they are working to fix it as soon as possible. It takes sometimes about 30 seconds for my window to pop up for these forms the form options to generate. Again, keep in mind, we're growing, it's going to get better. DocuSign and corporate are working on this right now, and hopefully will be fixed in the coming days pretty quickly, because we know this is frustrating and a deterrent as work happens. So this is what should populate more immediately than it just did. We can now add DocuSign forms, and we have a lot of options here. If you're someone that prefers to go build your own library every time, or you want to set up your own libraries, you're welcome to come into DocuSign and do that for you. It will be unique to you. However, the libraries that you have access to is what it's going to default to, and you could select the library. This is where you could go select all the documents you need, or if there's a document that we haven't put in a group and you need to go find it, this is where you would go. So we could select CCRA, and this is going to pull up every form that CCRA has that you might need. The same for the MLS and the state board or any local documents to our market center. However, what we've done to hopefully make your life easier is we've created DocuSign Forms groups. We're going to go to the groups, and because this is a listing, I'm going to select the group Listing Resale. And again, we're working to create more and more form groups to make it easier for you to identify which forms you'll need. I'm going to click Listing Resale, and it's going to automatically check all of the documents that we have required. So we know we need an exclusive right to sell. We know we're going to need a residential input sheet. We know that we're going to need a disclosure of brokerage relationships. Beyond that, the other options are up to you as to what you're going to need, because you're the one that's going to know your transaction the best. We're going to go ahead and add a withholding temporarily form for 90 days. And we're going to go ahead and do a lead-based paint and a property condition disclosure report. We're going to add all 6 of these forms. Renee, yes, the current CCRA forms and contracts have been added. The only one missing right now that they are working on is the multiple offer form that just was released. And I anticipate that that will be in the form library, hopefully by the end of the week. I now have all 6 of my forms, and now I can go into these forms and edit them appropriately. So we're going to open the exclusive right to sell. And we're going to scroll through and make sure all of our input fields are input correctly. This is not where you will assign signatures. This is only where you will make sure info has been input. So I'm going to go ahead and beginning on, and this is where this date should be pulling over because we already put in the beginning contract date and the ending contract date. Again, these forms have all been tagged by corporate, or not by corporate, sorry, by DocuSign, based upon their interpretation of our forms. What I need all of you to do, and the faster you do this, the faster we can get them all fixed and working as smoothly as possible, is anytime you notice any error in a form field and it's not pulling, whether it's pulling correctly, pulling incorrectly, something that's not pulling at all, please identify the form name and the issue, and I will get that escalated to get it repaired as soon as possible so that we can quit having to do some of the double entry. Just remember, it's a work in progress. We're working towards that, and we'll continue to work towards that. Are forms branded to KW Palmetto? No, no forms are branded at this point. And that is because these are all licensed forms from the association. And that is how DocuSign works. We could potentially talk about providing you with forms that have been branded to KW Palmetto. However, we would not be able to tag them at the corporate or at the market center level. You would have to go through and create your own tag fields to do that. I will follow up and look into that further. But my understanding is because these are licensed forms from the association that they will not be branded to KW Palmetto. But I will confirm all of that and let everyone know in the email that I send at the end of the day. All right. We would continue to fill in information, the tax map number. We're going to go sale price. And some of these fields are not pulling over, guys, because these are our local forms. Again, if you find any errors where they're not pulling, please let me know and we will get those fixed. So assume we filled out this whole form, we've checked all the boxes, everything has been completed. I'm not going to go through the whole document. We will teach a contract class to do that. So many of you know the contract inside and out. There's no need for me to reiterate that and go through it step by step. We're going to go ahead and let me see. I have a chat question. Renee, I hear you on that other brokerages are branded. Again, I will do my best to see what we can do to get that remedied. I don't know that it's going to be possible from a brokerage standpoint because of KW, but I will find out for sure. We're going to go ahead and save and close this document. Now, let's assume we've gone ahead and we've input all of our forms. We have everything ready to go and we're ready to send it for signature. What we're going to do, I can come up here and I can select each document that I want to send. So when I hover over the form, I've got a little check circle that pops up in the top. I can select those, or if I know I'm going to select all of them, I can click select all right up here underneath the add button. I can now copy these forms. All of these options popped up once I selected one document. I can copy them. I can move them somewhere else. I could email them to someone. If I just wanted to email them to someone for review and they did not have the option to sign, I could do that. I could combine them into one document. I would avoid combining them into one document. And the reason why, because you cannot split a document back out inside of DocuSign in order to assign them to our compliance checklist. So it's better to send them as 6 documents in one envelope for signature, as opposed to combining them into one document and sending for signature. So avoid the combine button. The DocuSign button is where we would put it in the e-signature platform and send it for signature. We could archive it or we can unarchive it. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into DocuSign for the e-signature process. And it's now gonna put all 6 of these documents into what's called an envelope. So if you're familiar with what used to be interoffice mail, where the envelope was passed from person to person to person until all signatures were met, and the names were written on the front of the envelope, think of that this way. that these documents are being put into one envelope. It's like I'm putting something in the mail. Once it's in the mail or it's in process of moving to the next person for signature, I can't touch it, I can't edit it unless I go and revoke that piece of mail and pull it back and start the process over. I'm going to change this envelope name to listing package, because this is how you're going to identify the envelope for all of the documents that have been signed. I now have all 6 of these documents here. And I'm going to click next. What's going on? One recipient. Whoops, sorry. We have to scroll down first and add the recipients to the envelope. So I have 6 documents. I need to send them to, we're going to call pre-tagged roles. So pre-tagged roles is going to be seller, buyer, listing agent, or buyer's agent. And that's what is going to allow us to auto assign fields. Because this is a brand new document that is tagged with signatures, we're going to select pre-tagged roles. Room participants would be if I'm sharing it with someone else. Email address is going to be if I need to email it to someone specifically for signature. So I'm going to go ahead and add pre-tagged roles, and I'm going to add seller 1 and seller 2. And I'm going to assign who is seller 1 and who is seller 2. So we're going to make Julie Baker seller 1. We're going to make Jamie Baker seller 2. We're going to come down and we're going to make ourselves the listing agent. So I'm going to add myself as listing agent. And then right now, it does not auto assign Lori as a broker for the managing broker field, because this is a Market Center brokerage account. Whoops, I totally just clicked out of that. There we go, pull that back up. Seller 1, seller 2, and listing agent. We would have to add Lori by email address. We know that she has to sign the exclusive right to sell. So we're gonna go ahead and click add selected. And I'm gonna add one more recipient by email address. And this time I'm gonna add Lori. And I'm going to add her address there, lcarnes@kw.com. You can also add her into the room contact if you wanted and select from there, or you can just type it in manually. Now, you'll notice on the left-hand side of adding recipients to each envelope, they're all listed as number 1. If you leave them listed as number 1, that means it's going to send this envelope to all 4 people in the room at the same time for signature. With DocuSign, the beauty of DocuSign is I can set the order of how I want it to go. So I want Julie to sign it first, so I'm going to leave her as position 1. I want Jamie to sign it second, so I'm going to put her as position 2. Once Jamie has signed it, then I'm going to sign it as the listing agent, so I'm going to put myself as position 3. And then once everybody is signed, I'm going to send it to Lori so that Lori can review it and sign off on it. You now see that the position is in order. Everybody needs to sign. You could also change this to needs to view or receive a copy. You could set this where it would automatically send it to your attorney or to the lender once everybody is has signed off, and they could just receive a copy of it. You could specify a specific recipient or someone that just needs to view the document. Yeah, I think Matt answered that question for Sarah Jane. If anybody didn't see that, you can set everybody at 1 and it will send all of them at the same time, and they can all access the documents and sign at the same time, just like you can in .loop. The purpose of this is primarily so that, for instance, I could have left Jamie and Julie both as position 1. Once they both signed, then put myself as position 2. So it would send it to me for signature after they both signed. And then I could add Lori as the next position. But know that you don't have to adjust that. It's totally up to you.
Just as a best practices thing. So DocuSign is what I used to use at my previous world before I started using .loop. And I would always recommend, if you have 2 parties that are either both buyers or both sellers, just make them the same signing order, because otherwise it never fails that the one who is second will always be the one who wants to sign first. And like, I didn't get it. I don't see it anywhere. You didn't send it to me. I don't see it. And it's like, well, it went to your wife first, and then she signs, and then it's going to go to you. So usually I just always would try to make those both the same time, so they both get it at the same time, because then they can both be seeing the email. Otherwise, one of those things, they didn't get it. So
it's also very telling which one is actually the one making decisions and controlling stuff, and just getting the other one to ask the questions.
Right. Brandon, yes, you can assign text for your clients to fill out. I'll go over that in just a second. This is where you would enter a message. So email subject. So we're going to say 1523 Hugh G Street. Listing agreement. And then I could type a custom message to them here. Now up here, all of these documents are now in the envelope. I want to go through and make sure that the signatures are assigned correctly. So I'm going to click view. That's not right. Apologize, guys. I just did this. I'm gonna go ahead and click next. It's now going to pop up all of my documents. All 6 documents are going to be here, and this is where I can review fields, make sure everything is assigned correctly. For instance, the agency relationships here, it's going to give them signatures for all 5. We know that we don't sign or initial all 5 here. So you can go through and delete what you need to delete just by selecting it and clicking the delete button. It's going to auto sign and date. Just know if you're adding signatures or dates, you do have to add date signed. DocuSign does not auto date signatures. If you needed to add a checkbox for someone, you notice you missed something on the last part. On the left-hand side, let's say Julie Baker, I wanted to assign it here that this property will be entered into the MLS. I can add a checkbox by clicking checkbox on the left, bringing it over, dropping it in here. Now, I don't want them necessarily to have the option to do it. I'm just going to check it for them. So I'm going to go ahead and check the box. I'm supposed to be able to check the box. So you go to checkbox values and you can check it, and I'm going to make it read only so that they cannot uncheck it. I could also give them options if I wanted to. I can go through and add signatures. Let's say I want to add initials here that owner consents. I can add initials for both of them. And I change that to, on the left-hand side, I've got a drop down. These are all the people in the envelope that are going to have an option to sign. So I could select Jamie. I'm going to add her initials as well. Could also just put a checkbox there. But I'm going to have them initial instead. You'll notice up here that broker may place on internet. It's got initials in both yes and no for 2 different people. That's an error on the tagging part. So I'll get that fixed, but we can drag it over and select them both for yes. Again, the more errors we find, the faster we can get these things to fix. Renee, I see that you said, do we need to add dates next to initials? My answer is going to be yes on that. I'll confirm. Andrew Corbett, there is not a CE DocuSign course that I know of for the .loop one that was available last year. However, we will work on putting together a DocuSign intensive class. Come through here, we're going to double check signatures. You can see Lori's signature here, date signed. Again, the text here for time. we're going to have to work on time stamping things. The date is time stamped because you don't have to have it here. The date sign is going to have a timestamp next to it. The residential input sheet, this is where you could add text boxes or fields for them to fill it out if you didn't fill it out for them. This is all editable in the first version before we get to this page, before we put it into an envelope. You can see here that the state disclosure of brokerage relationship, it's missing signatures. Not sure why, because that's a state form. However, we will work on getting that one fixed as well.
One thing real quick too, best practices wise, about like if you do have to add a checkbox or if you do have to add text for them to fill out, I would go back then and make it so that whoever you're adding in this, they're assigned to a person. In .loop, it was if you check the box, it's just going to be checked and they can both initial. In DocuSign, it's assigned to an actual person, like that person made that check mark. So if you send it to the person first and let them make the check mark, and then second, the husband or wife or whoever signs, that's going to make a lot more sense, because if you send it to them both at the same time, and the husband has the checkbox assigned to him and the wife gets it first and goes through to start signing, she's not going to see that checkbox. So, hopefully that you follow that. I've run into that a lot where people are like, I don't see a checkbox, or why isn't this filled out? And I'm like, well, it is, but it has to be assigned to somebody. So.
Right. So assuming that we got all of our initials right, everything correct, I could then go here and send it. I'm not going to send this because I don't know if there's really a Julie Baker and Jamie Baker at gmail.com, and I don't want to send them a bunch of DocuSign contracts for an exclusive right to sell. However, this would send it to them. They would get a signature request, just like they do in .loop. They could click through, sign, and check all the boxes they need, and they would be good to go. You can also look at a recipient preview up here in the top right. And this is going to show you exactly what they're going to see. They click start and it's going to walk them through and have them sign all the way down.
And you can change which recipient you're looking at it as up at the top left too, right?
Correct. So this is Julie Baker. I can come up here, I click Jamie Baker or Lori or anybody that's in the envelope and see exactly what they're going to look like. I can also come from, this is the desktop view. I can look at it on a tablet. What's it going to look like to them if they're signing on a tablet or on their iPhone? Yes, Brandon, it will notify you once the docs are signed. And yes, everybody can verbally ask questions now. So at this point, what questions do you got?
Andrew, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
You initially said, everything goes out individually, but in a big envelope is kind of the way my brain processed it.
Yes.
So if we're assigning, like in the property disclosure, where one needs to check and the other one needs to sign, each form can be set up individually, like one, like Matt said, the initial listing agreement goes out to both simultaneously. Correct. But then property disclosure can go out 1, 2.
Yes, you can do that. You would do it in 2 different envelopes, if that makes sense.
So there wouldn't be a mass email with all documents going at the same time?
No, not if you wanted to send it in that manner. So okay. If I wanted to send it where the exclusive right to sell is on the 1-1 signing order, and then I want the property disclosure to be a 1-2 signing order, I'd have to send them separately because I can't identify which document is which in that envelope, because it's like I'm sending a birthday card to someone. It all has to go in one envelope and they all get to see it at the same time. Gotcha. Or they get to see it in order.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions on this process? I know that was a quick overview. I wanted to make sure we got through it all. Happy to go back and revisit any pieces.
I know with I got one more question. I know with .loop, if something was checked wrongly by your client or something like that, it appears that you can, make it where it doesn't. If you send all the documents out and everyone has signed it and you need to edit something, does that mean they have to sign all the signatures over again?
They either have to sign it all again, or you're going to have to strike through or X out something and have them initial the change.
Okay.
Yep. Renee, I think you had another question.
Yeah, so back to my date question, beside all the initials, you're going to see about having that automatically go in, or we need to drag those dates in beside everything. Because like at the bottom, it's automatic. Looks like it's automatically showing up, but
right.
In the second page there where it says broker may offer a portion,
yes,
you've just got initials there, but there should be dates as well.
Okay, so I guess that answers the question. Then I'm assuming it has to be dated in every initial, correct?
Yes, and that's .loop did that. And then when you get offers in from other brokerages already using .loop, their date is showing up all over the place. It could be covering up, a part of the copy of the contract, which could cause issues because you're supposed to have a clear and legible contract.
Yep. I will work with DocuSign on getting those dates added. Because there was not a clear date field there and it doesn't say initial and date, DocuSign doesn't know license law, so we'll have them go back and edit.
Well,
and make sure
it's Lori's call, but that is my understanding that is how if there's ever an issue about when things get dated, when things get initialed, it's that timestamp that is putting everything in order.
Correct. Yep, that makes sense. I'll confirm with Lori, but I would assume we're going to want that document corrected. The documents we have are the same documents that Northeast and Irmo both have too.
Right.
So,
well, Matt's also a contract expert, so
yep,
should be able to answer that too.
We'll work through that.
Andrew, will DocuSign not date when it was signed? I know that in the past, .loop would at the top and at the bottom, it would verify the signatures with a date and a time and all that, not directly beside the signatures, but at the bottom of the page. Will DocuSign do that at all?
DocuSign will have a record similar to the .loop link that you could click and you could go see the record of the time and date stamp. However, I don't know that justifies the license law portion of it. Mm-hmm. You would, I think, still have to have the dates, but I will confirm that. There is a DocuSign app. If anybody wants to use the DocuSign app, you would go straight to the App Store to download that. I have not used it before. I'm not sure. Some people on here have said that it's great. I just never used it, so I don't know how user-friendly it is or exactly how it will integrate. But you could go to the app and you would use the login information that you set up.
When do they expect us to start using this?
.loop, the anticipation is that we would transition to this fully by May 1st. That is the goal.
The office will send something out saying start using DocuSign now.
Yeah, so technically it's able to be used now. So those people that are willing to jump into it now and help us continue to identify the errors and forms and things that need to be fixed are helpful. So you're welcome to start using it effective immediately. However, if you want to give it a week or two while other people are working through some of those errors, I understand that too. But just know that even come May 1st, we're still probably going to find a handful of errors that need to be fixed.
And then once May 1st comes around, we're correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but the plan is that we're going to there's a way to import everything from .loop into DocuSign, right? So like active loops and .loop will be able to be imported into because we're going to have to do compliance through command at that point. And so the .loop compliance isn't going to work anymore. Command compliance is going to work. So we'll have to just import things from .loop just one time on whatever date you want to do it, and for everything from .loop to command, and then be working from there.
Yep. And we will start importing, or I will show you how to import from both .loop and DocuSign tomorrow. Tomorrow's class will talk about how we pull those forms in for compliance into the command software. Jason said, is Lori doing compliance from both .loop and command now? Yes. As of this week, she will be checking both platforms. However, just know that command does not send her an automated message like .loop, that there's a transaction to review. So she's having to adjust as well in how she reviews things. It's she's going to be checking it multiple times a day. However, if for some reason you've submitted something for review through command compliance, which we will talk about tomorrow, and she's not responded in a reasonable amount of time, then feel free to shoot her an email, particularly in the beginning, even when you submit it. Just say, hey, just want to let you know I submitted X transaction, the address of it, or however you've labeled it for compliance. Eventually, she will be solely, obviously, doing it in command, but she is checking both currently.
Will that be something that they fix to where she will be notified?
They're working on that right now. You get notified via the Kelly app that it has been returned to you, or if it's been approved. It just does not notify her at this point that she has a new thing for review. So they're working on how do we assign that role. There are multiple people that have access to that because like I have access to the approval side because I set up all the templates for Lori. So how do we make it where it just notifies her and not myself and Matt and Brenda, all 3 or 4, that there's been something submitted for review?
So I heard you say it notifies us through the Kelly app. So does that mean that I have to have my phone sitting there? I mean, right now we get, .loop notifications via email, and
yes,
my emails pop up.
So there has been a request for that, and I will share that idea. So there has been a request on ideas.kw.com for multiple notification options like we have in .loop. Right now, it's just via the Kelly app and inside of command in your notification bell at the top. But there's multiple people requesting for them to get an email notification as well. Totally possible. It's just not functioning right now. I will share that link in the email tonight. And if everybody could follow that link and vote for it, the more votes it gets, the more likely it's going to be done in a faster timeline.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think that, right now in the transition, obviously Lori has not had very many submitted to her through command, or DocuSign. So it's not something she's actively thinking to do, all the time. But once that's the only place she's reviewing it, her getting notifications isn't going to matter a whole lot because there's so much that's going to be in there. She's going to be in there all the time reviewing. So right now it kind of matters because it's not as, as busy in that platform. But once we transition fully into that platform, she's not going to have to worry about checking .loop anymore. So that part shouldn't be a problem. It's definitely a transition that we're making, but we'll grow with it together. I think once we transition into this, then there's not going to be as much of .loop and command. .loop command is going to be all command, and so those notifications coming through, you're going to be in command a lot by getting documents and writing contracts and stuff. So I think I'm with you on the notification thing, but I think there's going to be plenty of places we're going to be seeing what's going on because it's just a different platform we're going to be getting used to using than the way we've been doing it. Like I never had a reason to be in .loop unless there was a certain contract going on or a certain thing happening. In this situation, I'm gonna be in command all the time. So, Andrew, did you see Elizabeth Lafitte's question on there about the app from the App Store?
Yeah, I answered that question.
Okay.
All right, guys. Any other questions? We got a few minutes left if you got them. I would encourage you to go into your opportunity, go ahead and create a room, play around with it, even set yourself up as the buyer or seller so you can email it to yourself for signature. find errors, figure out your workaround, spend a little bit of time in there playing with envelopes and rooms. We will do a more in-depth DocuSign training in the next couple of weeks. Today, I just wanted to get you familiar with how do we start a transaction, how do I pull documents, and how can I send them out for signature. I know that was a pretty high-level class. It was a lot to accomplish in less than an hour. So I apologize that it was pretty high level and not super in-depth, but we will continue to work on that and answer your questions. As those questions come or you get stuck, please email me with any of those questions or anything you think would make it better. I would love to help and want to know what we can do to make it easier for you and better for you as time goes on. So know that this is the first round and we will continue to evolve and get better. Just like we had to do with DotLoop when we launched as a brokerage. We had to work through some bubbles at the beginning and get through those. And now DotLoop is running pretty well. We want to do the same thing with DocuSign and hopefully even on a faster pace than we did with DotLoop.
I got to say that recipient preview is pretty awesome. I don't know if DocuSign had that before and I just never noticed it, but being able to actually see what your people are seeing, like I've always just had to kind of go through it with clients by memory. But being able to actually see what they're seeing is that's awesome.
All right, guys, you're pretty quiet, so I'm assuming that means you have no more questions. If you need to hop off and go start your day, go smile and dial, or go to a closing or inspections or whatever you need to do, go make it happen. And we will see you back tomorrow.
Hey, Andrew, one more question
Yes,
before we jump off, and this
Yep.
is for Matt. Hey, Matt, can we do maybe a class on Zoom and teaching us how to share screens so that if we need to cover these documents, you know, with people from a distance, that we get up and comfortable and proficient, I guess is the best word, in doing that?
Yeah. So that's going to be Thursday's mastermind this week, 10 a.m.
I will take shaking of the head as yes.
Oh, sorry. Can you not hear me?
I can hear you now.
Huh. Okay. Sorry. I said, yes, that's going to be Thursday's mastermind is that topic is, you know, all things virtual showings, virtual listing presentations, just hearing what people are doing and, you know, what's going on out there. And as part of that, I'm happy to go through and show, you know, some best practices with Zoom using sharing the screen. There's a whiteboard option that you can use on Zoom. So yeah, I'm happy to do that.
So Thursday, as in tomorrow at 3 o'clock?
Thursday at 10 a.m. So
10.
Tuesday's mastermind is 3 p.m. Thursdays is 10 a.m.
All right, I'm putting it on my calendar now.
Very good.
Thank you, guys.
And if you know anybody that would benefit from that, or anybody that would help with that, you know, anybody who's doing virtual showings and doing business virtually at a high level, just, you know, let them know about that, and we'd love to hear their input, you know, on the mastermind. Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Andrew. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Andrew.